Hello, Matt.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. The conference been going so far. I was on a session yesterday, but it's been going.
It's going pretty good. It's kind of tough. People don't know how to use Zoom, so
It
you
is tough.
have
I
to bounce
understand.
off.
Yep, I understand. Thank you again for your help in setting this up. I appreciate it.
No problem. That's why we're here. So I'm just gonna be in the background while you present. If you need anything, you can like direct chat me,
Okay.
um, or you could just stop and be like, "Hey, can you do this?"
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do breakout rooms, I'm gonna have to do it for you, and I
I
have
don't think with 20, I think that's small enough that we can all
Okay.
be together.
Okay.
I might send you a message way through and go, ooh, actually, but
No problem.
I did this workshop in Danville, Kentucky back in October. And we didn't do breakout rooms then. And I think there was 19 in person there. So, and that worked out well, but sometimes people are a little more shy over Zoom, but the good part is everyone they can use the chat box, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's better. Some of my classes, it was kind of nice that you could like
Yeah.
talk quickly without having, raise your hand and stop, but you could still say what you wanted to say.
Definitely.
And let me make sure that, I want to make sure you can see my screen, and then I'm showing a video, not to make this more complicated.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that video, I want to make sure I have my process correct. So then if I click escape, are you seeing my Chrome screen or are you seeing nothing?
I'm seeing the PowerPoint.
Okay, so if I then now are you seeing the
Video,
like Chrome?
yes.
Awesome. Okay. So I think let me go process. Let me just try and get that a little bit smoother one more time. So if we're on here, and if I click new share, and then I go to Chrome, were you able to quickly see the two?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so even I don't know how to work.
Can you play your video? Sometimes it doesn't come out with sound.
Oh, I don't know that sound actually is super important.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, looks good. It's not even laggy. Okay.
Good. Okay.
Perfect. You're all good.
Awesome. So what major are you? What year are you?
I'm a rising sophomore.
Okay, wow, good for you to be this involved in.
I try.
That's awesome.
I'm double
That'll help
majoring.
your resume. This will be valuable for you to go to. It's kind of all about like, you're gonna walk out with 3 years of event management experience.
I know. This was a lot. A lot of crying.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But, and what a point I'm not to spoil it, but what I'm gonna say in the thing is that, even if you failed then, I work in recruiting. I mean, people that are in recruiting, I'd much rather you have failed and then had 2 years to learn and grow than when I'm paying you and I've hired you and you fail and you mess up a customer. Like the fact that you've already like kind of learned, even just personal stuff. Like if you're a morning person, night person, if you like to have every little minute planned out, just stuff that you can't really learn it from a book. Kind of just have to do it. So that's a synopsis of basically what I'm going to be talking about. It's like all the stuff that Bonners do in your undergrad experiences are super valuable to businesses. And so it's just good for you, event management, dealing with my emails at 10 p.m.
Yep. Looking for a job after undergraduate. So, you're
What do you
hired.
want to do?
Huh?
What do you want to do? I do grad school recruiting, but I know people. What do you want to do?
I don't know yet. I know I want to be a lawyer.
Okay.
I know I want to be a lawyer, but I don't want to go directly after undergraduate. I want to get
Okay.
some work experience and see if I actually want to do it. Um, but I don't know.
That's
I thought,
okay.
yeah, I don't know. I thought about like consulting because
Okay.
McAllister is really trying to get into the business world right now.
Okay.
Um,
I do consulting. I love it. For
yeah,
like marketing and and human resources. I really like it.
I
Get a
like
lot of
it.
different stuff to work on. I only
Mhm.
cry sometimes.
The case sets are so hard. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just like, oh my goodness. Yeah,
What
but
did you
it's
say your
fun
major
though.
was? Remind me what your major is.
Oh, history
History. Oh, okay.
and history and economics.
Got it. Okay. We could always come to grad school.
I know.
I happen to be a pretty good recruiter, so we are a Bonner partner
I know, I know. Good scholarships too.
with a big scholarship. But yeah, very good. Yeah, these experiences are really, really great. And where are you right now? Where in the world are
I'm
you?
in California right now.
Oh, okay, nice. Oh, so this has been an early morning thing for you because you guys
Yeah,
started what?
like yesterday I started at 6 a.m. because I had to like have a meeting in the morning and finish
Yeah.
off
No, I
some
have some
stuff.
friends that because I'm in Florida and but
Mm-hmm.
they came from California. Well, we had classes that started here at 8:30. So they had a final that started at 5:30 a.m. I mean, nothing. I can do nothing at 5:30 a.m., let alone attempt to take a graduate school
Mm-hmm.
final. So,
It was bad. Yeah.
but,
I took Russian this year as my language. I took it
okay.
in like high school too. But like doing that exam at like 6 a.m., waking up for that class, oh, it was horrible.
That is a lot. Yeah, that is
I'm
just
surprised I passed it, but we're past it.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's done. Super,
Good
super awesome.
experience. I don't think I
So
want to go
what?
to Russia anytime soon, but
Right. Yeah, I'm staying local for now. But so what you are one of the Bonner interns that's there helping this. There's 40 of you guys, right? Or are you one of the how does your are you one of those are you one of the Bonner interns?
yes, so it's 5 of us.
Okay.
Um
So you're one of the ones
but
that's on the website.
yeah,
Got it. Okay.
we work directly with the foundation.
Got it. Well, check your inboxes next week because Crummer's going to send the graduate school is going to send you guys a little thank you for all of your
Oh,
hard
thank
work.
you.
Check your emails, but sometimes they come to spam. So
Oh, okay.
tell the other people you work with to check spam.
Definitely. After our staff meeting tonight.
Yeah, perfect.
Ooh.
But yeah, so that's super exciting. So how did you find out about Bonner?
Um, so I knew when I was going to college, like I wanted like a family type of like feeling and like
Okay,
community and environment. But I wanted also like a social justice kind of program where we have the
absolutely.
ability to like actually gain like work experience.
Yep, that's the first thing
Um,
I told you. Yep, I totally get
and
that.
nonprofits. So I was like,
Yep,
oh my goodness, Bonner. Then I got in. Then I was like, okay, let's see what this is about. Then
yeah,
yeah, that's how I got in.
super awesome. Good for you.
So how did you get into this line of work?
So kind of randomly. So I always have liked. I did a program similar to Bonner, but it was a public school, University of Central Florida, called Lead Scholars Academy, and kind of fell in love. And I did marketing as just a student role then. And
Mm-hmm.
when I got into the graduate school that I finished with, it just kind of randomly landed a position with admissions and recruiting and fell in love with it. So the rest is history. But yeah, it's super, super fun. I just like, building relationships and talking to people. So it's been a fun, I get to travel for work, which is fun, but good, good opportunity.
Definitely. Oh, someone's having a hard time getting in. Okay, give me one second.
Uh-oh.
Okay, this should be good.
And with all of these, I've kind of started like 5 minutes after set time. With every Zoom we've ever done, I've always All right, everyone, good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. Like I said, we're gonna get started in just a minute. Get ready to use that chat feature. The more that we can kind of use that, the better. And of course, if you have anything to say, we're a nice, small enough group that feel free to jump in at any time and we'll get started in just a minute. All right, thank you, Christopher. Everyone that answers that is getting a Starbucks gift card, by the way. So thank you all for playing along. It's just my way to make sure that this works. Okay, what am I seeing? Oreo ice cream, cheesecake, chocolate cake, strawberry shortcake, a lot of different stuff. That's super important to what we're gonna kind of talk about a little bit today. So just to introduce myself, we'll go ahead and get started. It's 1:31. My name is Matt Caldwell. I work in admissions at the Crummer Graduate School of Business at Rollins College. And I just graduated from that program. And in the process of recruiting students for our program, we work with, thank you, Diana, we work with tons of different companies and businesses. And so I have gone around as a part of my graduation project, kind of worked on, these ideas of service. You constantly hear that, oh, it's good to have a servant's heart and be service oriented. I think something I didn't learn until very recently was the value of this in the business world. So what we're going to kind of talk about today is all of your Bonner services and the experiences you've had. Those are extremely valuable in any organization. I was just speaking a few minutes ago about the importance of these. Give me 1 second here on this PowerPoint. Hang on, sorry everyone. Now that we're back in operating, the biggest point here, what I want you to take away from today is there is value of service in business. If you hear nothing else from the next 45 minutes and what we're going to talk about, and we'll have some sessions, since we're such a small group, you guys are welcome to use your microphones and jump in the conversation. That way I don't feel like I'm just talking at a screen. But the big 2 points, your Bonner experiences are extremely, extremely valuable. Even if you think, oh, I was just as an undergraduate student, or I was just 4 or 5 students I was involved with, those experiences are extremely, extremely valuable. So let's talk about just business in general. What can businesses do to change the world? So one of my favorite math equations, I am not a math person, is 1 + 1 = 11. What does that mean, 1 + 1 = 11? It means that if you come in with your service mindset and you find the right organization that supports you, that encourages you, the right company that also has those mission and values, the value you gain is not just one person and one other person working together. It's 11, because you're combining your individual resources with the resources of those organizations. So what I want to ask you now is, just for an example, think about a company that you find trustworthy. We think about this concept of ethos. So using that chat box, just write in a few examples of companies. If I were to ask you today, what is the name of a brand, an organization, a place you do business with that you find trustworthy? Go ahead and enter those answers into the chat. Okay, Apple, great example. Headbands of Hope, great example. Marriott, okay, I'm a big traveler. I love Marriott. Tom's, excellent work they do. These are great, great brands. And because I'm Patagonia, I have a few Patagonia jackets. So where I'm going to stick with Apple and Marriott, just because I know those two brands personally the best. If Apple were to tell you, if I were to come up to you, you've only known me virtually for about 8 minutes. If I were to tell you, I have this great nonprofit, this great cause, and you should trust me, even though we've only met for 8 minutes, I would hope that you might, and you know that Bonner has vetted me a little bit, so you might. But just think about how much more powerful it is if Marriott, Tom's, Apple comes out and says, there's an amazing cause and we want you to support it. I think, and consumer studies show, if a company supports it and it's a trustworthy company, the benefits to build that nonprofit and to build your cause. Think about all the black squares we've seen over the last few days from organizations. They're using their platforms for good. Because if a company, Marriott, Tom's, Apple, Patagonia, have hundreds of thousands of followers on social media, they're able to really influence and help in all kinds of movements. So an example here of this, and I'm sure if you have your videos on or want to turn them on, we can raise hands, or you can enter them into the chat. Who at your schools have ever hosted a partial proceeds event? And if you know what that is, if you're not familiar with it, that's where typically there's a flyer and you go to a restaurant and 10%, 5% of the sales go to your organization. Has anyone heard of that and familiar with that before? Okay, some thumbs up, so that's great. And these events are really, really great because the business is using their platform to provide that change. So now I want to talk about the law of large numbers. And I'm sure, again, this is a math concept. I'm not a math promise. In 2012, McDonald's, I'm sure we've heard of McDonald's, sold 75 hamburgers per second. Think about that. And that was in 2012. So that means during this presentation, 45 minutes, they will sell 270,000 hamburgers. That's not cheeseburgers, that's not deluxes, that is the basic burger. So I want you to think about for a minute and this idea of how businesses can change the world and why service should be more infused into business. Think about if every single one of those 270,000 hamburgers that get sold during the next 45 minutes, what if that has a positive note of encouragement in it? Something that said, you've got this, you can do it, we're here for you, supporting you. Whatever you need, McDonald's has your back. 270,000 people in the next 45 minutes would receive that encouraging note. And whenever you're working in a business context, whether it be with your school, with your Bonner organizations, when you're there, don't ever think it's one note in one bag. Think about the impact that you can have because of the law of large numbers. Another important element of business, and you all have experienced this, I know you have with your Bonner service projects, is the idea that businesses defy property lines. I think oftentimes we think of businesses as places that exist in a building. So Starbucks has a store, they have a place you can go. If you were to go to Walmart, they have their space, their store. Home Depot has its space, its store. But if you really make a positive impact on someone and you're advancing social justice and you're advancing leadership in the community, that extends so far beyond what you may think of as just a business. Just as when you've done your Bonner service projects, maybe if someone could give an example in the chat of a project you've had that impacted your community, it didn't just impact the 20 people that 20, 40, however many people were in the individual organization. If you got word and it spread through the school that these students were doing a really great act, that positively impacted every single student on your campus that heard about it. And what I want to show you next is a really, really, really great video. But what I'm going to do in the chat, just to make sure we're on the same page, if you have ever flown before or know someone who's flown before and had your luggage not make it to where you ended up, just write me or yes in the chat. If you've ever heard of this happening, you've taken a plane and you've made it, but your bags have not made it. And you know that feeling of watching the bags go around the gate agent and they're going around the carousel and it just, you see that it's just not happening. And I'm seeing quite a few yeses. So the story I'm about to show you is one of my favorite stories when it comes to the value of serving business, because it wasn't the CEO that made this choice. It wasn't the executive leader. It was an entry-level employee. Her name is Stacy, excuse me. She's 27 years old. And what I want to show you is a video of her going above and beyond for a passenger who, just like you and I have experienced, changed her flight at the last minute and her bag didn't make it. So I'm going to show you this. Can everyone can everyone see my screen? Someone give me a thumbs up. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Hey, Matt, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm not getting any audio from the video.
And actually, that is okay. I should have said that in the beginning. My apologies. This video has subtitles, but thank you for letting me know. I appreciate it.
All right, sorry for interrupting, no problem.
No worries. Okay, so when I think about that video, and I want you guys to kind of use the chat here, just thinking about an example of someone going above and beyond. So the quick synopsis is, I know we had some technical problems there. A woman was traveling back on her flight, which was delayed. She had stage 4 cancer. And in her bag were medical equipment, a animal that she used to sleep, but just these personal care items. Her flight was delayed and her bag didn't make it. And as all of you, I mean, so many people have said, yes, they've had this happen, myself included, yes, with an exclamation point. And when this happens, it's frustrating, but I can't even imagine being someone who really needed my stuff that badly. And this gate agent was 27 years old. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. And all of the cars that would typically drive someone's bag to their house had gone for the day. They had left, the had gone home. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. This incredible, incredible person who's 27 years old thought, you know what? I can make a difference right here. I can bring my servant's heart, all of those Bonner commitments, and we'll talk about those in a minute. I can improve my community by doing one thing. She had no idea. This video has gone viral. It's been seen by millions and millions of people. And this was just one person helping one other person. And that night, she chose to get in her personal car and drive over 1 hour to this individual's home to bring her bag. That is unbelievable and unheard of. I think at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm not sure. I used to work as a lifeguard. And when we closed at night, I was really ready to go home. The last thing I would think of was, keeping on working or driving somewhere else. And in addition to that, she took the time to write that handwritten note that says, we love you and we care about you. One person helping one person, but this video has been seen by millions, and now 1,020,000 because I've shared it with you. And the reason I bring this video up is that, you know, oftentimes I think when we think about serving from a business perspective and from these large Fortune 500 companies, think, oh, you know what? I can't do anything until I'm the CEO, or I really don't know what I can do. And the truth is, there's probably something in every single one of your roles. If we were in person, I would have asked you your majors, and I would have asked you what your career paths were, and I will ask you that in a minute, so get ready. But in every career, anything at all, there is something you can do that can make a positive impact, all because of how you can provide service in your day-to-day role. So keeping that theme in mind, I want to talk about how you can use your service after, because like I was involved in a service program at my school, but it was something very similar. And it was easy. There were people that set up service projects. I had the time to do it. I got hours that I had to have. And I was really afraid after I graduated, it's going to be a lot more difficult. But the reality is, your community needs you more than ever, especially when you have that degree, because you can use talent to do so much more than ever before. So again, just by answering yes, thank you all for doing that with the last question, but who has heard of the concept in law of pro bono work? Does anyone know what that means and want to share with the group in the chat what that concept of pro bono is?
Isn't it essentially just doing some sort of legal work for no extra charge?
Yes, exactly. And actually we're a small enough group. For moving forward, everyone can just shout out their answer. So, and you are exactly right. That is it is using your area of expertise. Typically in law, you think about, you know, maybe helping a client that can't afford to pay your hourly rate. All of your degrees, all of your experiences make you valuable. So if you have a nonprofit that needs to spread about their event and you were a marketing major, you can help them with that. And it's so, so extremely valuable. So let's talk about the multifaceted elements of service in business. And when you think about running in business, and actually just using the mic feature, if you guys want to just shout out, what are some, to ask you a very broad question, I'm sure you've been asked a million times, what do you want to be when you grow up? What are your areas? What do you want to do? Everyone can answer.
I am going a business marketing route.
Okay, and will you say your name when you answer? I can't see it all on my screen. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Taylor.
Thank you, Taylor. And actually, I can just call. I'm going to call in the order that's on my screen. And if I say your name wrong, I apologize. Diana, what's your career path?
Hi. So my major is social work. So I plan to use, since it's such like a major, I plan to go specifically into the hospital where they have offices like cognitive behavioral therapy. So like maybe with a minor with holistic health or something like that. So.
Awesome. Okay, that's awesome. So you'll easily be able to use that service and in so many ways than one. And that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to ask one more. Michael Zirkle, I see you. You're next on my list. What do you want to do? What's next?
Hi. I currently work in higher education. I just got my MBA this May. I graduated. So I want to do something in fashion merchandising or management.
Okay. And that's such an awesome opportunity. We have a lot of variety. And when we think about service in business, it's so much more than just employee 5 days and giving back in those traditional methods. And when I think about service and when I think about business, I think we often think Starbucks is a coffee shop. Southwest is an airline. Their goal is to get you from point A to point B. Starbucks' goal is to get you a coffee. But when you think about it, even in businesses, there's a service. The employers have a responsibility to you, whether it be in a hospital, in fashion, service that's being provided. And a concept a lot, especially in MBA, I'm sure you've heard this before, business is made up of stakeholders, not stockholders. Stakeholders are everyone that's involved in the organization, not just the finance. Because you could have all the money in the world, but if you don't have great employees, you don't have employees that are excited to come to work every day and excited to serve your customers, it may not be a very successful organization. Speaking of service and what businesses provide to service, lately, I'm sure you've seen the last 2 or 3 years, our companies are continually innovating to be better providers of service. So just by saying yes or raising their hand, who has taken advantage of a drive-up opportunity to either get your food takeout or purchase something at a grocery store where you've been able to drive up and not have to even get out of your car? Has anyone done that in the last 2 or 3 years? And so that's an example, thank you. That's a great example of a new service that's been provided. And when I talk about from a recruiting perspective, as I mentioned in the beginning, I recruit for graduate school. Understanding service and then your knowledge of understanding service is only going to increase your success when you're entering that job market. So now I'm going to pick on some more people in order of my list. I want you to tell me just 2 or 3 of your core values. So Christopher Wilson, I am looking at you. Give me 2 of your core values, and I'll even give you a preview. Hajar, Elvis, and Anthony, I'm coming to you next.
Okay, so 2 of my core values would be compassion and communication.
Awesome. I love that. Sure, you know, those are great values to have as a person and in a professional role. Because how can you be a professional without good communication and just compassion for your colleagues and your coworkers? Hajar, you're next, Rockstar. Okay. Elvis Diaz, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. So tell me, just what are some of your core values? Give me 2 of them.
Mine would be respect and intentionality.
Got it. And I think that is a huge, huge value to have that, just respect in every area of the word, knowing that you see it's right here, just knowing that you're respecting your customers and you're respecting your employees and your employer, and that intentionality. I haven't heard that before, and I've given this presentation. I love that. Being purposeful in what you do. All right, one last one on this. Anthony, last name starts with T. It won't show me the rest.
Yes, I would say my core values, or 3 that come to mind, would be leadership,
Okay.
community, and then just what was the other one I was thinking of?
Everyone else only gave me 2.
Okay, yeah, I'll just do those.
Those are perfect and great, great answers. So I bring that up, and the reason why I kind of ask you sort of randomly is because I was hoping you would all say different values. All of those are similar, but they have their differences. And what I want to talk about is this amazing quote. I'm sure you've all heard of a little company called Disney. The video we watched was from ABC, which is Disney. When your values are clear, your decisions are easy. This quote, what I love about it, wasn't made in 2012. It wasn't made in 1999. This quote is from the 1970s when Disney was just starting to build their organization. And I'm from Orlando, so Disney's home. When I think about how much Disney has done and with the decisions they make, these big decisions to launch these new innovative experiences, when your values are clear, your decisions are easy. What an amazing way to think about. And speaking of some of those decisions that you're gonna have to make, I imagine I could ask you all if you wanted to have a job after graduation, if you wanted to work somewhere. I assume you would all be saying yes, that could be an assumption, but you're gonna have to choose what company to work for. And oftentimes it's a little bit difficult to find a company that identifies with those values. So we just heard 6 awesome values: intentionality, compassion, leadership, to name a few. All companies post their mission statement and on their website. So a great way when you're getting started, let's say that you have an interview coming up or you're thinking about applying. This is true for your internship and for your full-time job, just look up company name, mission statement, and it'll come right up. So we're going to take one Target. I'm sure we've all heard of that. To make Target the preferred shopping destination for our guests by consistently fulfilling our expectations, expect more, pay less, brand promise. And what I love about their vision is it talks about the community, guided commitments to great value, diversity, and the environment. So let's say let's say my core value was giving back to the environment. Well, maybe a plastic producer is not going to have that same vision as Target. Maybe they do. But you can always look these up. And then if you're taking tips on rock your interview, something I always advise people to look at, if you can infuse the mission and the vision into the organization, every recruiter in the world is going to be impressed because it shows that you mark. So if you've ever been in a question, and again, I'm going to start picking on some more people. So I am picking on Alexis Woods. And my question for Alexis Woods is, what are some questions you've been asked in an interview before? Give me an example of some interview questions you hear a lot.
Or after the values, like how do you lead with your core values?
And that's a great question. And that's one you can take, if you have your core values, you can take that and you can say, well, my core values are compassion and communication. And I see that Target's vision is to have those guided commitments to improve the community. And I know that by living compassionately, I'm helping the community. That's a pretty strong first answer in an interview. Thomas Lee, I'm coming to you next. What would you say are some questions you often hear in an interview?
Like your greatest strengths, greatest weaknesses, like how you deal with problems.
Yeah, I think I probably, in every interview where I've been asking the questions or I've received, I think someone has asked me, what are my strengths and weaknesses? That's a very popular question. So if your strengths are aligning with that mission and even saying as a strength, I'm mission focused, I'm a strong leader, I am compassionate, I know that Target values that, or I know that whatever company you're working for values that. And that's just a really important thing to remember when you're looking for an organization. We already talked about how businesses provide a service. So what I want you to think about as you're going into your job market and you're going into that interview process, what services do the business provide? Beyond like we said, airlines getting you point A to B, grocery stores selling food, UPS and FedEx delivering packages. I've given this presentation before, but this is the first time I've ever given it after the coronavirus. And I think that a really important point is I talked about grocery stores before and the importance of how we need those drivers to deliver our food, how we need those cashiers to be open to sell us our food, the people that stock the shelves. And it's so, so important. And when you're interviewing for any role, it keeps doing this, recognizing that importance is so, so critical when you're in that interview process, just to remind your viewer that you recognize the value of service. So now I want to talk about a concept that was new to me as an undergrad. Giving back helps employees succeed and it helps companies recruit great talent. So I am now going to pick on Lillian Waltman. And Lillian, I'm going to ask you, have you ever been on social media and heard someone say something good or bad, or they've maybe texted you about the place they work? And could you give me an example?
They've ever posted something good or bad about a restaurant that they visited before?
About a place where they've worked.
Oh, a place that they've worked. Okay, well, the first thing that comes to mind is a video that I saw on Twitter once. It was I didn't know the person, but it was an employee of like Panera Bread, and they basically were exposing how sometimes like they were saying that they would making all natural foods, but then
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Keep going for the people who haven't seen
it. It was
this.
just basically they took a video of like how they made the mac and cheese, and it was like completely frozen and really gross. The woman ended up getting fired after it. But that's just like the first example that comes to mind is someone who, you know, works in, like, once they start working in the business, then they start learning like the ins and outs and probably
Yeah.
the truth of the business.
That is you. That was almost like I told you to say that. That was a perfect. Thank you so much. And think about
Thank you. Of course.
and think about in that example. Do you think that that employee was happy with the job that they had?
Definitely not. And they were using social media to basically expose the company for like what they are doing.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, and I think if I remember the video, the person mentioned having to work all these crazy hours and that the employees were so tired and they had been working there for 3 days and they were having to train new people. And that's a great example of, let's say all of us on this message, I worked a college job. I'm probably not going to go to apply to Panera Bread because I saw that video. Well, the same thing is true in reverse. And does anyone, this is open for anyone that wants to share, have an example of a time someone gave you a positive either recommendation or review of an employer? It can be on social media, it could be a text. Someone came to you and said, oh my gosh, my boss is amazing, my company is amazing, any of these. And Robert, you work for Bonner, so I'm also looking at you.
Definitely. It depends. Like a lot of community partners like come and say like, oh sorry, a lot of interns or bonners working with community partners will recommend like different organizations, such as like the Spring Hill Association, which gives back to the DLAN area in Florida. They do like signing paperwork and stuff. So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Robert. I mean to pick on you there, but I just about if you are, we're all looking for jobs. Everyone's looking. If you have someone come to you and say, oh my gosh, I have the best organization. They treat their employees so well. Just imagine if for Panera Bread, instead of them showing us those frozen mac and cheese cube things, if they showed a video of baking fresh bread and their manager smiling at them. I've seen a lot of videos lately of some Walmart and Target stores where the managers are allowing their employees to have a graduation, social distancing, of where they get to kind of walk through the store and celebrate. I just think, what a great way to recruit good talent by showcasing what a great place you are to work. And that is an example of the value of service. As on the con side, if you're not servicing people, then it could really impact you negatively. So let's talk about social justice in business. Social justice and service go hand in hand. Businesses have the power to change the world. Social justice impacts both on and off company property. If you have an organization where something negative is taking place, your employees are gonna come and spread that message. Whereas if you go in, you can be the leader. I keep seeing organizations that showcase what they're doing during the pandemic of, you know, we're offering our employees extended sick time off. We're offering whatever this may be. What happens on your company property, Panera Bread was such a perfect example, isn't going to stay on your company property for better and for worse. Your business also has the opportunity to advocate for fairness, impartiality, and equity and address systematic social and environmental issues. Let's say there's a product that comes to the market and everyone loves this new product, whatever it may be. Maybe it's a new phone, but then your company discovers that it's not actually recyclable. If your company lets that go, your company is a part of the system. But if they raise their hand, if they're willing to take a step to improve, they could be a part of the positive change as well. So talking about those Bonner values that are needed in business. I'm sure we've all heard social responsibility, also acronym CSR, but companies have to do more than just a few days a year. Companies should be actively fighting for social justice every single day. It's in every break room, it's every good morning, and every interview. I'm not sure if you all knew this, but in your interview, there are certain rights that you have. And if someone asks you a particular question, you can be totally invalid and skewed. So it's important to recognize your rights, and they vary state by state, but a common example is asking you your age. It can be brought up very casually. Oh my gosh, if you're talking about your amazing accomplishments and they ask, oh my gosh, and how old are you? That is totally a biased question. Maybe you're too old for what they're looking for. Maybe they don't think you're old enough for what they're looking for. That corporate social responsibility and those corporate policies are so much more than 2 or 3 nice 5Ks a year. And it's really important to figure out where you can look those up and where you can find that information out. In a few minutes, I'm going to talk about those resources. But before I do that, I'm now going to pick on Patrick Amaro. His last name starts with Amaro. Patrick, and I'm going to ask you, what was a time that you have served someone, whether it be another student or a colleague at work? Can you tell me about a time, tell us all about a time that you helped someone when they needed it?
Yeah, I think like kind of small, but I think I like one time I think it was like the we were on campus and I helped like someone like who was very lost, like kind of get through the day and like figure out like, where to go to classes, figure out how like get some additional buildings, any shortcuts, and I thought that was definitely good on my part. Didn't really show them a lot of stuff, but I feel like it was necessary to help them.
That was a perfect example, and one that's so relatable for everyone that's going back to a campus later on in the future. Just that idea of being there for someone when they need it. And that, as I'm sure you all know, is service. And on your first day, getting that referral, being that office or the corporate center or the store, being that person that just helps people when and where they need it. So we've shown the video of the Southwest employee driving the bag. And I have 3 questions that I think you should be asking yourself on your first day of work. And by the way, I will be sending everyone that's in this presentation, I will send you this PowerPoint, and I'm going to include quite a few links coming up that are the actual resources you can go to. So you'll be able to look at those directly. But 3 questions. What can I do to give back on my first day? When you walk into the office, do I see that maybe the change jar for the nonprofit isn't being very high? What can I do to give back? Why will someone listen to me? Listen to you because you're in an organization where they value your opinion. Your Bonner experiences give you the experience that you need to be successful. And the last question is one that is so, so important, and I think we've seen it more in the last 8 days than we ever have. Will I risk my job by standing up for what I believe in? I got asked this question at the last Bonner conference. Someone said, it's easy to say, find a company that has great values, find a company that I align with their values. But as an entry-level employee, if I see something wrong, what if I lose my job? And then I have my mortgage or my rent or my car payment. And here's going to be my answer for you, and it's one that I've dealt with. If you're at an organization where you're afraid of losing your job because you stood up for what you believed in, that is probably not an organization for you. On the first day, I would ask yourself these questions. Because that way you're not sitting there 5 years in a role that wasn't the right fit. And from the recruiting perspective, if you go to a new company and say, we saw you were only at this company for 2 weeks. Can you tell us why? Without bashing your employer, you can say, I have to stand up for what I believe in. My core values, as we said before, are XYZ, and those weren't being embodied here. That's a great answer that will always help you on the next step. So I mentioned when I got started that we have some links. Let's say you've heard a lot of great things about these companies, but I imagine no company on their website is going to say, we have values, we don't like our employees, we're not great to our people, we don't believe in the community. No company is going to post that on social media. No company is going to write that on their website. So fortunately, there are resources. Glassdoor is an excellent resource. It's kind of like the Yelp and TripAdvisor for companies and for working. So you can search your company and see what real people are writing about what it's like to work there. And most companies are on here. The next, Charity Navigator. So if you're looking in the nonprofit side, when we're working a nonprofit, Charity Navigator rates charities not just from the donation perspective, but also from the work perspective and what it's like to be there as an employee. The next one I want to look at, let's say you have a passion for helping terminally ill children. You work with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and Nemours, and at UCF we call it Night Bomb, at Children's Miracle Network. You can go to those websites and look up who their large sponsors are. And when you're reaching out to that company and they say, why do you want to work with this company? Your answer can be, I saw how much you raised for Children's Miracle Network, and that was a big deal in my school. And I know I'm good with accounting, and I saw you have a role open. I work for a company that supports my values and supports my value of service. It all kind of comes together. So specifically transferring your Bonner skills, some examples on here, but since everyone has been so great with participating, I'm going to keep going back. So Haroon Saeed, I want you to tell me about a time when you were working on a project in your undergrad at Bonner. Tell me something that you've done with Bonner.
So my freshman year, I did some project management for the development center in my town, or in my college town. And I pretty much just surveyed businesses in the downtown area, see what their employment was looking like, where they were at on their leasing, or if they were renting, or if they owned the property, et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of just compiled that entire spreadsheet to submit to the state of Indiana at the end of the year.
That's so awesome. And you, in that example, I mean, I'm hearing research and data. You had to talk to what I assume were strangers when you were reaching businesses. Right. And those values, I think about what you did there, your skills, these Bonner skills, those are so transferable to the business world. And by remembering how to say those is so, so important. So I'm sure we've all budgeted for a project. That is real finance experience. You had the real deal. If your facilitator at your school gave you $1,000 and you came back and said, well, I rented a for $4,000, that was a problem and that wasn't going to work. And you had to learn how to budget. If you ever had to get volunteers to work at an event, if you ever worked with getting people to sign a petition or donate to a cause, that is sales, marketing, and recruiting experience. If you've ever been that person who organized multiple events during one semester, or maybe you've had a project that was all yours and you had to set up time people were getting there, time people were going to leave, that's event logistics. And those skills are transferable. A concept I want to tell you that relates to this is failing forward. Even if your event wasn't successful, I've worked many events that were not successful. And thank you, Elvis, I appreciate that. We'll be about 10 more minutes. Failing forward. If your event wasn't successful, but you can mention why it wasn't and what you learned, so help you in that interview process. So here we have listed those bringing Bonner commitments to business. And I'm going to share this with you. Another quick example, I'm sure we've all been driven by car dealerships. During the coronavirus, for our first responders, every Mazda dealership was giving all healthcare workers a free car wash, a free oil change, and a free disinfecting for the interior of their car, just for being a healthcare worker. And we think, what a great way to live out the community. Thank you for the clapping, Diane, I appreciate that. But just a great way to really give back. So thinking about international perspective, that's a great Bonner core value as well. What next steps can you take to build international experience? Ask companies how they are with their international experience. The big lesson here, another key takeaway, ask the questions, ask how their international department operates. And if they don't have one, even if it's a small local business, how do they deal with people that maybe don't speak English? How is their customer treatment plan? What translators do they use? How often do they deal with this? And maybe you want to learn to see what they do. And maybe that's something you could help with your Bonner skills and the importance of international perspective. So again, we've talked about this, but it's so important. How can I find a business that aligns with my skills? Well, you can reach out directly to the businesses and ask. If you're in the interview process, maybe you're interviewing right now, congratulations. Ask, what are your values? How do you align those values every single day? The same question they probably ask you It's a two-way street. You should ask them. And finally, research. I'm going to send you all this link with those research tools that will help you just by searching the company name, see what people really say about those values. So let's talk about power, pressure, and responsibility. You are all going to be very successful. I believe that you will. I've appreciated all your answers this afternoon and your involvement. When you climb that corporate ladder, your responsibility is going to increase. So a great example, in 2012, the Lenovo CEO, and they make laptop computers, donated his $3 million bonus to 10,000 of the company's lowest level employees. So when you're working the corporate ladder, never forget that you still need to be involved in service. And I'm so glad, Diana, that you're on a Lenovo laptop. Now you need to know a little bit more. So let's take a review, and then I'm going to open the floor for some questions. And I'm not sure what the next event is, but I am great to stay until a little bit after 2:30, if that's okay with Robert. But just the review of this, business, service, and leadership are all closely related. With the examples that you all have given me and that I've shared with you, they're all intertwined. And when leveraged effectively, combining business, service, and leadership lead to both internal and external for all organizations. Moving forward, if graduate school is for you, identify a program that allows you to continue and increase your leadership skills while maintaining those values. You can look that up. You can ask someone like me. Find a program that's going to help you reach your goals with your core values and your core mission. As you enter the workforce, select a company that shares your values of service and continue to serve. On that first day of work, ask those questions. What can I do to serve today? My very first, how can I help? Because graduating from the Bonner program, you have the skill set to make a difference. As your responsibilities grow, remember your ability to influence grows as well. So maybe you started an organization and said, the training program was good, but it didn't feel very loving. I didn't feel that Bonner love. It didn't feel totally cared for. Well, maybe after your first 4 or 5 years, when you're in charge of that training program, you enact and change some of those values. And remember, your first day is extremely, extremely important. And I think about that Southwest Airlines video of that who was 27 years old, and she made such a big difference on that woman's life. And at this time, here is my information. This is the school that I represent, Rollins College, the Crummer Graduate School of Business. My email address is on here, and I am always willing to take your questions. I have people from the October, if anyone was at the Bonner Congress in Centre College in Kentucky, that I am still in contact with. They still email me questions. So with that, I am opening the floor to questions. It is about 2:18. And thank you all so much for attending. I appreciate you being here. And like I said, we'll work to get you this information. And if you ever think of anything, you are always welcome to contact me later. And thank you for dealing with the little technical glitches we had there. I appreciate that.
This is more rather a comment than a question. But I wanted to appreciate that you brought up the value of like reviewing the mission and values of a company before applying for jobs. I just graduated with my master's last month. I'm the Bonner coordinator.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm currently applying for jobs, and that was something that was very vital for me. and I've seen that that's limited my job search regardless of like the salary or other things.
Yeah.
I'm very like keen on a company working somewhere where my values are pretty much the same. The university right now where I attended and work have a great mission statement that we really truly live by. So I've seen the impact of that and want to continue that. So because of that, I was able to know that going forward, I should look at a company's mission and values. If not, I feel like that's something that people don't think about and consider a lot. So I think it's a great point to bring up. You can start even before getting into the company.
Yeah. I think, thank you so much for that comment. I think you're so right, is that it's, you know, before you get, you know, involved in that company. And Sean, I think that's a really, really good point, that when you have so much at stake, it can be really, really hard to think about leaving that organization. And there's definitely ways to find out, like Danny was saying, when you limit your job search, that's certainly something to think about. And that's just when you think about your values, what can you do to maybe change some of those elements in an organization? But I do completely understand, especially in today's job market, that can be really, really, really difficult. Well, everyone, again, I want to thank you so much for attending this afternoon. It's been so great to have you. It was super. Have I? Yes, Christopher, I have. That's a great question. So I used to work in an organization sold real estate, and they were a group of realtors in the Orlando area. I won't mention the company name. And their values, they said, were to help families move into great areas, move into great homes. But as I was sitting in some meetings, listen to them mention, oh, well, we're going to show them this new home that's just being built because the builder of that home is going to give us a big kickback on selling them that house. And some of these agents knew that the homes were not being built well, or knew that they might be selling a house built by June and it wouldn't be finished till October, but they omitted certain information from the clients because they were receiving a kickback. So yes, and that's a really, really good question, Christopher. All right, and everyone, again, thank you so much. Robert, if there's nothing else, we want to just say thank you. I'm sure there's any closing words from Bonner, but thank you guys so much for attending this afternoon. I hope you learned something, and thank you for all your nice words in the chat box there. It's been an absolute pleasure. And Sean, that is such a great point. And that's really how I felt, Sean, is that people, you know, the home buyers had no idea that the realtors were getting a big kickback. But the realtors did. And that was just something that, you know, that lack of knowledge, especially when you're in a business role, I think that's super, super important. So, but thank you guys so much for your time this afternoon. If you ever need anything, my contact information is here. My LinkedIn is down below, and look forward to staying in touch, and best of luck to you with your careers and your job search. I know you all will be very successful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you found the time to present.